You're cut off from the world. No signal, no power, no running water. Night falls. The temperature drops below freezing. And in your backpack, there's nothing. No charger, no tent, no stored food. No rescue team is coming. You don't know where you are. The wind howls through the trees. And hunger is turning into dizziness. If it were you, well, what would you do? Today, the smallest glitch can leave us utterly helpless. A power outage, a dropped connection, a storm that breaks the supply chain, and everything collapses like dominoes. But hundreds of years ago, that wasn't a disaster because medieval people didn't live off the modern system. They lived off survival knowledge, forged through wars, famines, plagues, and brutal winters. They made it through without technology, without medicine, without Google. And the most astonishing thing, what they used still works today. Not just works, it's worth relearning. Because if the world shuts down tomorrow, the only thing left might be the things we've long forgotten. We go back to 13th century Europe. No GPS, no gas or solar panels. The only thing keeping someone alive through the cold was skill. In Northern Europe, winters lasted for months. Icy winds tore at the skin. The ground froze like stone. The trees were bare. The animals hid. And hunger became a familiar companion. In tiny settlements, often just a few dozen people, everything had to be done by hand. Water, firewood, food, and light. There were no deliveries. Every skill was a link in the survival chain. And if one link broke, someone died. Archaeologists have uncovered many living fire caches buried beneath home floors. Hollow wooden tubes turned to charcoal-holding smoldering embers that stayed hot for days. This wasn't a hack. It was real survival technology. A failed fire tube could mean death for the whole family in a single frozen night. They didn't just start fires. They kept them alive the way you'd keep a life going. Skill 1, portable fire bundle. Keeping fire alive. Like the medievals. You don't start a fire. You carry one. A bundle of straw wrapped in beeswax. A hollowed wooden tube turned to charcoal. A smoldering ember tucked inside just damp enough bark. That's a fire bundle. A living flame on the move. When needed, you blow gently. And flame rises from ash. Medieval nomads, hunters, and forest guards had no lighters. They moved through forests, snow, and rain, and they didn't always have the time or the means to build a new fire from scratch. One glowing ember kept alive inside charred wood or flax fiber packed with ash could stay hot for hours. Some cultures even passed down the craft of family firekeeping, where flame was maintained across generations. A smoldering coal generates heat without visible flame. Wrapped with just the right moisture, dry moss, bark linen, and given the bare minimum of oxygen, it can stay alive for hours, even days. When ready, you unwrap it, blow steadily, add dry tinder, and the fire returns. In modern bushcraft, keeping a fire alive is the ultimate insurance. Lose your lighter in a storm, and this could save your life. North American preppers now use compressed coals wrapped in bark, a nod to the medieval fire sausage. No batteries, no matches, just one spark, and you carry fire with you the entire day. But fire alone won't feed you. Next comes a way to preserve food using one of the oldest weapons known to man: smoke. Skill 2, smoke preservation, storing food with smoke. You have meat, but no fridge, no salt, no time. The solution: smoke. Cut meat into thin strips. Hang it on wooden racks. Keep a slow fire smoldering below so the smoke coats every fiber day after day. You're not cooking, you're smoking. No heat needed, just smoke. And time. In Scandinavia, the Central European mountains, and ancient Slavic villages, people used smokehouses, tiny huts, or natural stone caves dedicated to smoking food year-round. Venison, dried fish, fat. Even vegetables hung for weeks in constant smoke. Oak, birch, or aged pine smoke doesn't just preserve, it adds aroma, it kills bacteria. Nomadic tribes carried smoke bundles like primitive MREs, ready to eat, long-lasting. Smoke contains hundreds of natural compounds, phenols, acids, aldehydes that disinfect, dry, and protect. It dries the surface, reduces moisture, blocks mold and bacterial growth. Combined with cold winds, smoked meat could last for months. Even through winter, no chemicals required. Today, off-gridders and hardcore preppers still use this method, especially in cold or unstable regions. Instead of relying on fridges or canned goods, they build mini smoke huts. They use local wood. They preserve food, smoked fish, smoke-cured sausages, fat sealed in leaves. And none of them call this primitive. They call it food freedom. But fire and smoke aren't enough. You need barriers to protect your food, your home, and maybe raise a few animals. The next skill will completely change how you think about fencing. Skill 3. Living fences. Grow walls that guard and feed. They didn't use steel. They didn't pour concrete. They grew their fences thick, alive, impenetrable, and maintenance-free. From willow, hawthorn, hibiscus, even raspberry, they built 2-meter-high walls of thorns and foliage. Walls that blocked wolves, hid homes, broke the wind, kept soil moist, and sometimes even bore fruit. Across medieval Europe, from England to Slavic villages and the Alps, living fences were vital village defense. 13th century records from Kent, England describe hedge forts, entire villages encircled by living walls, woven with a technique called pleaching, partially cutting, bending trees sideways, and letting them fuse and grow into solid green walls. Softwood species like willow, blackthorn, or hawthorn could survive the bend as long as you didn't cut through completely. Another method, laying, created thick, crisscrossed hedges alive and unclimbable. Roots held water, branches cast shade. Together, they created a microclimate around the village. Some even wove medicinal plants into the fences to ward off insects. Today, many permaculture farms are bringing it back to cut costs and optimize space. Fences made from raspberry wild apple olive, raising chickens, bees, rabbits safely inside without fear of predators, reduced wind, retained moisture, less irrigation needed, and best of all, no paint, no rot, ever. You have a fence, but you still need something else to cool, to warm, and to store food. The fourth skill isn't a machine. It's an ancestral earth battery, a way to regulate temperature using nothing but dirt. Skill 4, clay batteries, storing heat cold, and time. You have stone, you have clay, you have fire. You don't need electricity. You create stored heat. By heating up clay bricks, large pottery jars, or wall cavities, our ancestors created natural heat batteries to stay warm through winter nights, or keep food cool through the summer. From Eastern European farmers to Scandinavian villagers, clay and stone thermal mass systems known as masonry heaters were common as early as the 11th century. Inside earthen homes or underground shelters, they packed clay rough bricks or river stones around a central fire pit. The fire burned just 1 or 2 hours a day, but the heat stored in the clay would radiate out for 12 to 24 hours. In reverse, deep underground lime-coated chambers stayed cold like natural freezers. Clay and stone have high thermal mass. They take a lot of energy to heat up, but once hot, they hold warmth for hours, even days. Ancient people used this principle to design walls, ovens, and floors, turning the entire living space into one giant heat battery. In summer, the same concept worked in reverse. Cool air from underground was funneled through ceramic pipes, cooling the space, reducing spoilage, and preventing mold. Off-grid preppers today are returning to thermal mass heaters using clay brick and raw concrete. Remote cabins in Canada or Finland use bench heaters to stay warm all night without needing to burn wood constantly. In permaculture, earth fridges made of dirt and brick act as natural refrigerators. No power, no chemicals. And the best part, they still work. After hundreds of years, now you've mastered fire, stored food, captured heat. But what about things you can't bottle or freeze? Water, dryness, the lifespan of your tools. The next skill is how the medievals waterproofed wood using nothing but heat wax and their hands. Skill 5, friction glaze, waterproofing with heat wax and bare hands. You have a wooden bowl, rain is falling, the ground is soaked, you need to carry food, but the wrong material means it soaks, rots, and fails within hours. Medieval people didn't use glue, No plastics, no coatings. They used heat and bare hands to seal wood and make it naturally water-resistant. The technique is called friction glaze polishing, with wax fine ash and heat generated by your own hands. From Nordic woodworkers and Slavic villagers to Native American tribes, this method of sealing wood by friction was used to make bowls, spoons, containers, and pot lids. In Eastern Europe, people burned bark to extract resin, mixed it with fine ash, then rubbed it into the wood surface using hot stones and rough fabric. The result, a natural glaze, waterproof, mold-resistant, lightly glossy, and durable for decades. Wood is porous. It soaks up water fast, but when the surface is lightly charred, the pores seal shut. Fine ash and wax create a thin yet resilient layer, waterproof, without any plastic coating. Rubbing by hand generates heat and pressure, forcing the resin deep into the grain, like embedding natural plastic inside the wood's physical structure. With clay, a similar technique was used after firing rubbing with animal fat and heat to create a smooth sealed surface. Today, many bushcrafters practicing the raw natural style are reviving this skill, making wooden bowls, utensils, and containers that are food safe and chemical free. Instead of modern sealants, they use beeswax wood ash and coarse cloth to waterproof wood wicker or raw clay. No smell, no toxins, no decay, and no dependence on outside supply. You can now store dry goods. Tools won't rot from moisture, but if you get lost in a foggy forest at night or during snowfall, you'll need something even more primitive sound. Skill 6. Sound navigation. Navigating by echo, fog, and nightfall. You're deep in the woods. Fog blankets the trees. The sun is gone. No GPS, no flashlight, no map. But you can still move safely. Find your camp. Avoid traps. Recognize familiar people using just one thing sound. Medieval people used bird calls, stone tapping, whistling, and echo patterns to navigate without sight. From Alpine guards to Scandinavian hunters to Welsh farmers, entire sound languages evolved. In Iceland, villagers used whistle codes to warn each other as fog rolled in. In Asia, some nomads tapped stones against tree trunks, sending a sharp ping that echoed like natural radar. Even within villages, wind chimes and hanging gongs were used as nighttime locators during blizzards or pitch-black storms. Sound travels in patterns, reflection, and resonance. In fog, low tones travel farther than high ones. Survival isn't just about hearing well. It's about making the right sounds to trigger echoes you can follow. Tap a rock on the ground, listen for hollowness. It could mean a pit, a den, or a trap. Whistle at the right pitch. The sound will scatter or bounce back if there's a wall, a person, or a cliff ahead. Modern survival teams and bushcrafters in Canada, Alaska, and remote islands have brought back sound navigation. Use small bells to keep the group within hearing range. Place reflectors or hanging objects around the camp to detect footsteps. Tap walking sticks on trees and rocks to guide your way through fog when the flashlight dies. This isn't about good hearing. It's about creating a survival sound system to move without light. You can hear, you can navigate. But what if your memory fades? What if you lose your group or get cut off from your community? The final skill is what preserved medieval civilization itself, a living, breathing memory network. Skill 7. Communal knowledge networks, the living memory web of an entire community. No books, no internet, no backup except the human mind. So how did ancient people preserve knowledge? They didn't entrust it to one person. They broke it into pieces and shared it with the entire village. Each person held a part, and when disaster struck, the network reactivated itself. In old Carpathian villages, the Slavs divided survival skills into clusters. The elders kept the medicines. Children learned traps. Women memorized lunar planting calendars. Ritual leaders preserved sanitation rites and burial practices. Everything was embedded in songs, myths, games, rhymes. A child growing up absorbed survival skills without ever opening a book. This was a biological distributed memory, one that couldn't be wiped out by the death of a single person. Human brains remember through emotion, rhythm, and repetition, and the ancients knew it. They turned skills into chant stories, melodies, making them eternal across generations. This fragmented memory model also meant low risk of total loss because everyone held a different piece. When needed, the community gathered, pieced the knowledge together, and healed, and rebuilt, and adapted. Today, some off-grid communities and resilience groups are reviving this method, teaching skills through group rituals. No videos, no manuals, just trial, error, and memory. They create songs for first aid, water filtration, fire starting. This isn't just a skill, it's a collective cognitive immune system. The one thing that can survive when all servers crash and all batteries die. 7 skills from fire to water, from food to memory. These aren't hacks, they are lifelines. They carried entire civilizations through centuries of chaos without anything we rely on today. Today, we live inside a web of power grids, signals, GPS, and global supply chains. We order food with a single tap. We've forgotten how to start a fire. We no longer know where the sun rises. And we've lost the meaning of true silence in the dark. But all it takes is a storm, an energy crisis, or a grid-wide blackout, and we suddenly realize what we once called convenience was really dependence. And what we dismissed as primitive might be the only thing that can save our families. Medieval people didn't need charging cables. They had fire bundles. They didn't need freezers. They had smoke and clay. They didn't need Wi-Fi to ask Google. They had living memory spread from person to person. They didn't survive with gadgets. They survived with something we're losing: adaptability. And if the modern world falls, the first thing you'll need isn't a device. It's a memory. You don't need to become a medieval person to live like one. You just need to relearn what they never forgot. Survival isn't a hobby. It's the primal core inside every human. You already have it. You've just let it sleep too long. They weren't stronger than us. They weren't smarter, but they practiced. They knew there was no one to call, nowhere to lean on, and no time to be afraid. Today, when trouble strikes, we ask, what gear should I buy? But they asked, what skill do I still remember? That's the difference between survival and waiting to be rescued. Fire, water, food, defense, knowledge. You might have nothing in your hands, but if you have memory and skill, you're never truly empty. Where do you start with one click, with one video, with one try, filtering water by hand, or lighting a fire with charcoal? Because when the system collapses, the ones who survive won't be those who have the most. It'll be those who remember the most. Final question. If you were dropped in the forest, nothing but your hands and your mind, how long would you last?